Hi, my name's Renee. I'm a trainer with Series Services and I work here at First Impressions Clothing Exchange, which is a shop run for women by women in a terrace in Muralbark. You might have seen me do some lives with my other work colleague Sue on Facebook. We have our own page, which is called First Impressions Clothing Exchange on Facebook and First Impressions Clothes on Instagram. So I'm here to talk to you today about some helpful tips once you've secured an interview. So I've already done a small post on tips and tricks for resume writing and application, so please feel free to check that out as well. And all of this information that I am talking about today is available on our webpage. So if you go to siri.org.au, head to training, First Impressions, you'll be able to download all this information there. And if you did want to chat to us over the phone or via Zoom or Facebook or pop into the shop, you can do that as well. First Impressions Clothes at siri.org.au is our email address, and we're always available to help you. Like I said to you, I've done a little video on resume writing and application. So being that you've popped your resume in and you are now successful and you've got an interview, which is fantastic. So hopefully I can now give you some further hints and tips on how to put your best foot forward in the interview process. And it can be quite daunting, especially if you haven't done one for a while. And obviously it's going to look a little bit different with the COVID lens on, I suppose. But I'm just going to firstly run through with you the different platforms of the interview scenarios, and then maybe just focus on probably the ones that you're going to encounter at the moment. So you've got obviously phone interviews, you've got one-on-one interviews, you've got group interviews, and you've got video interviews. Obviously at the moment with social, people are still hiring, clearly there's lots of jobs still going out there, maybe a bit harder to secure. And most of the interview platforms that are being used at the moment is maybe initially a phone one and then one via Zoom or Skype or a Facebook Live, that type, not a Facebook Live, a Facebook interview. So that's the ones that you're probably going to encounter at this stage. And then maybe if you're successful and they're hiring a big group of candidates, you'd go through to the next one, which might be a group interview or a group setting environment. So I suppose if you've been successful in getting an interview, and let's just say it's a phone one and they're going to ring you at a certain time to talk to you a bit more about yourself and why you want the job, I'm now going to give you some handy little hints to make sure that you are putting the best foot forward and you're prepared, I suppose, because there's nothing worse than not being prepared for an interview and fumbling your way through it, and then you kick yourself afterwards. So first things first, make sure your phone's charged. I know that's really number one basic, but please just make sure it's charged and have good reception as well. So I know, some people don't have great reception where they live, or maybe you have to go to a different location or someone else, just to have that reception. And you've confirmed the scheduled time so that you're prepared, that you know what time that the person's going to ring you. You want to make sure that you're in a quiet environment that allows you to concentrate. If you're at home, maybe let the people that you live with know that you're expecting this phone interview so that they can give you the space that you need to answer the interview questions and talk comfortably. You want to eliminate all your distractions, such as the TV and all that sort of stuff. Turn everything off. You also want to use proper etiquette. So especially when answering the phone, you want to make sure you're introducing yourself and you're speaking clearly, and hopefully you know who was been calling you so that you can address them by their name as well. And you want to smile too during your phone interview, because it actually changes the tone of your voice when you smile. So when you sort of smile, you can already hear the different tone coming across through the phone. So, and it also makes you feel good about yourself too. So I always suggest you smile as well. You want to look over the job description and have a really great understanding of what the employer is looking for. So you want to know the key job criteria, and this can help tailor your answers to the various questions that potentially you're going to be asked over the phone. And also you might then have some questions that you want to ask as well. So really, really important that you know the company, you've done a little bit of background. I can't stress enough deep diving into the company. So know their ethos, know their values, know if they've got a mission statement, how many, if it's a retail outlet, how many outlets do they have? Are they Australia-wide? Are they expanding? What does their webpage say? Are they online? Are they, there's so much things that you can find out. What's their core values? Are they sustainable? Are they, into recycling, that sort of stuff? Because then you can really tailor your answer, and especially if any of the things that the company does resonates with you, then it makes it easier to answer the questions authentically. And also it's a lot more relatable and it comes across as a lot more genuine. So you don't need to know every last detail, but just some overall strong facts about the company and the job that you're going for. It's really an impressive thing to do, and it comes across quite well to the interviewer. Some questions that you may get asked in a phone interview and even in a video interview is, and this is really important because preparedness is the key. And there's so many times I talk to people and I'll say, so have you prepared to answer this question or that question? They sort of look at me and go, oh no, I hate that question and I don't know how to answer that one. So most of the time, most interviews follow a certain similar structure. They deviate a little bit, but most of them follow this same pattern. So your responses to the interviewer and to the questions, you should have these embedded, especially if you're really in the job hunting process and you're maybe having a lot of interviews and that sort of thing. You should be able to really talk your way quite succinctly through your answers rather than sort of stumbling and fumbling. And if you do get stumped on a question, maybe ask the person or the interviewer to repeat the question or come back to the question, or just take a little bit of time to think about the question. That is completely fine because we can all get stumped by a sort of a left of field question. But some of the more just basic questions would be, tell me about yourself. So you want to have a little bit of a spiel about what you've been doing, why you want the job, a little bit of a history, just 1 to 2 minutes. It doesn't need to go on and on, but just so that the interviewer can get a clear picture about you in their mind. Then why should we hire you? What makes you the right candidate? So you want to have some examples of maybe some things you've done well in the past job, what you can bring to this job, that sort of stuff. What interests you about the job, and that comes back to knowing the company that you're potentially going to work for. You've done a bit of research, so you can talk to some of the things that you've researched about the company and how it resonates with you personally. This is the killer, I think, for most people. What are your biggest strengths and weaknesses? And a lot of people really stumble over this one. You really need to know your strengths, and you should be talking about them proudly, whether you're a good communicator, problem solver, people person, compassionate, great with computers. You want to have about 4 or 5 that you can just rattle off and give examples as to why you believe they are your strengths. When it comes to your weaknesses, you don't want to have as many, obviously, because you want to get the job. You might just have a couple, but you don't want them to be a really bad weakness, like, I have no idea how to use a computer. You might just say, computers aren't my weakness, but I'm learning. I'm actually taking a program online to help me get better at using them. So you want to turn it around to be a positive thing, even though they've asked you if it's a weakness, if that makes sense. Another question might be, what experience do you have doing, and it be something related to the role. So what experience do you have in sales, or what experience do you have in retail? What experience do you have in making coffee, that sort of stuff. Again, have some formulated answers in your mind that you can talk to those questions about the job. And another one is, tell me about a time when, you had a bad customer service experience. Tell me about a time that you had conflict with another team member. Tell me about a time where there was a safety incident at work. It's all going to depend on the job that you're going for and the role that you're going for. But when you answer this question, you cannot answer generically, you need to answer specifically. And this method is called the STARS method. So, or the STARS technique when interviewing. So it's tell me a time, so the situation, the task, the action and the result. So when using the STAR method, you've got to remember to ensure your responses are specific in nature. Do not tell the interview panel what you would do, instead tell them what you did do. So that is really important. And the situation you choose, always make it a positive one. You want to highlight the positive in it. You don't want to obviously talk about a negative situation, of course. You're selling yourself to the employer, so always select answers with a successful result. And it really doesn't matter if you use the same story for all the other jobs, or each job you go for, because it's a true story, and everyone's got stories where they've worked in a situation where they've turned a negative customer service situation into a positive one, or they've had, had some tensions within a team and they've turned them around, or worked on improving services in a current role. There's lots of different scenarios that you can potentially draw from, but like I said, there is more detail about the STAR method online in our information, and you can Google it online as well, but it is one of the most renowned techniques that majority of interviewers, especially big corporations, use, because it really lets them get an understanding of how you actually handled a task, your recollection of the task, and it lets them almost see a snapshot into how you would be acting in their workplace. So it's really, really important that you understand this method and get your head around it and get comfortable at, just role play with a friend or a family member or another work colleague, so that you can be successful in securing the interview. And so the last thing in the interview process, whether it's the phone interview process or the video interview process or the face-to-face interview process, is that you're going to be potentially asked if you have any questions. And it's okay to go in, when you're going into the interview, have your resume there, or maybe the job description of the interview that you're going to. You can have some notes written down, have your questions written down. Just let the interviewer know, I've got some questions if they're not covered in the interview to ask at the end. It shows that you're prepared and that you're taking the whole process seriously. There's nothing worse, as someone that's interviewed hundreds of people, probably more than hundreds, when you get to the end and you say, have you got any questions? And the person says no. There's always a question to ask, and it doesn't have to be a lot of questions, one or two is, and some of them might have been genuinely covered off, and you can obviously let the interviewer know that they've covered off this question or that question. But if they haven't, or here's some questions that you could ask. The one I really like is, can you walk me through a typical day in the life of this role? And that really shows that you're genuinely interested in the role and you want to hear from the potential employer's point of view. What will be my biggest challenge in this role is another good one. How will my success be measured in this role? What have you enjoyed most about working here? Maybe why did the previous person leave this role? If you're filling in they might have got promoted, I don't know. And what are the opportunities for growth within this role? So that's just a few really great questions that you can have written down and ready to ask. And it just shows that you are taking the whole process seriously. You're genuinely interested in securing the job and you want to know more about the company and the firm that you're potentially going to work for. So again, all this information is on our website. So please, you can head to siri.org.au under training, first impressions, and download all of this material. Or again, you can PM our social pages on Facebook and Insta and ask us some further questions there. So they're all hopefully some helpful information. But again, if you need any further help or you'd like to talk through a potential interview with us, please feel free to reach out, and we are more than happy to help you. So thank you. Good luck.